Hey guys, it's Matthew here once again, and I wanted to take you through how my first attempt at a Spark character is going. But first of all, I just want to mention I apologize for the background noise. We still have the air conditioner going full blast. As of this point, it's 10:30 and still roughly 32 degrees Celsius. In Adelaide, it hit a top of 42 today, so I apologize for that. The Spark character in question I'm talking about here is a Pathfinder, and it's Voltaxic based. So I am fully self-cast Spark, not using any Val Spark shenanigans whatsoever, and it's mostly Chaos, or at least, converted 60% of our lightning into Chaos, and then the added Chaos Gem, which gives a almost entirely Chaos sort of desired effect, but still lots of lightning damage left over for Vinctars to do quite a lot of work in. Now, the reason we are Voltaxic, or I chose to be Voltaxic, is because it's still a pretty good choice for Spark and Lightning to Chaos sort of conversion, and the main reason is I want to be able to do all the content in the game. So, Spark notoriously doesn't have a great single target, especially nowadays after all the nerfs it took, and obviously converting to Chaos and then having a shitload of poison damage, as is customary these days, makes for a pretty good single target, and I'm hoping that that means I'll be able to clear Guardians, Shaper, maybe even Uber Itziri, with a build that is pretty notoriously average on single target, and as well as that, being almost entirely Chaos based with Voltaxic lets me deal with Reflect a lot easier, especially on the Itziri Mirror ad, which you otherwise would not be able to really attack because Spark will one-shot you there if you're pure lightning and rolled something like an Inquisitor. So we did go Pathfinder because you get poison from flasks that way, and it makes Flask Sustain very comfortable, and largely I did this just so I could have insane movement speed with my Voltaxic character and not have to rely on something like Lightning Warp or Flame Dash or any other random bullshit. So we just run at a really accelerated rate with all of our Pathfinder shenanigans, and then fire off a couple of sparks and clear an entire room pretty much, and then have a really nice amount of single target in the end too. So far this character has been pretty much steamrolling just all maps and doing very fast clear speed, even though I haven't built too much into sort of projectile speed, too much into attack speed, or really anything. Just a general sort of character that's trying to do everything. So it's got decent single target, fair amount of poison scaling, and an overall quite nice playstyle. So it's the first time I've ever really tackled Spark as a standalone character. I've used it before in a Mjolnir and cast on crit sort of setup, but this is the first time I've ever self-casted Spark, and I really am quite happy with how this has turned out and how it's playing so far. I've been averaging something like 200 to 300 million an hour on maps, even in the high 80s. Been clearing very fast, can do just about everything in the game so far with single target, though I have yet to tackle anything beyond tier 15, I think. I have done most of the Breach Lords at this stage, as well as Ul Natal and Itziri sets go down very easily, so all that's really left is to level a few more times, maybe fix up a few things of my gear because it's still a bit lacking in certain areas, and then tackle the endgame bosses and see if we have decent enough single target. But as we all know, currently Poison, Wither, Shocking, double dipping, all that shit makes for some pretty nice single target, and I'm pretty happy with how it's going, but I may end up needing to go into Ball Lightning slower proj mode for the real serious business fights. Now, we are crit based and my energy shield is not very high, as you can see. I'm aiming to hit something like 8k. That's because we are using a Voltaxic, and the passive tree has to be somewhat offensive and orientated that way, so I can't get too much energy shield on the tree, and I can't really get too much energy shield from my gear. That said, a couple of my items aren't that awesome, so my chest is only like a 600 ES, my helm's only about a 350. They're pretty average ES items, but I do make up for it in a couple of other slots. Long story short, you should be able to hit 9 or 10k if you really invest a bit more into it, or as much energy shield as you want if you're going to be really trying to build a bit more defensively. And this is an example of how Itziri goes, so the mirror does not kill me whatsoever. So I'll go over real quick how the character is currently set up, and hopefully a more detailed version when it's completely finished. But at the moment, we're a Pathfinder, we've hit level 88, and it's been a very fast and smooth leveling experience thus far. hitting played, we're 16 hours 45 minutes in, so roughly 16 hours to hit 88, probably well under 20 hours if I go for level 90 at this stage. It's been very fast and averaging 200 or 300 mil in an hour, just running through and clearing everything super fast. So Pathfinder is what I've chosen, and the reason I did that is mostly for the poison on flask effect, but also for a lot of flask effect utility from these things over here, and with an additional 20% flask effect there and another 20 or 30 here, in the end we get a lot of extra movement speed. And I wanted this character to run very fast and have a nice playstyle, because our adrenaline, Quicksilver Flask of Adrenaline here becomes insane as a Pathfinder. So currently you can see I have 32% movement speed. Popping this flask, which will be up almost all of the time as a Pathfinder with my clear speed especially, go up to 150. Gain 120% movement speed from this flask, which is up almost all of the time. As well as that, pop our Onslaught Flask, and then we have even more movement speed. So it becomes a very fast running character and a fast playstyle overall, and that's largely the reason I went for Pathfinder. As well as that, it makes for much nicer Vinctar sustain and a much stronger Atziri's Promise. So as I mentioned, I am Voltaxic on this character. It used to be 100% chaos conversion, now it's only 60%, but that's still pretty damn good for builds like these, especially when you supplement your chaos damage with an added chaos damage support. Now I picked chaos, as I mentioned a bit earlier, for the single target, because without it, you're probably not going to have very good single target against the really tanky stuff. The double dipping on poison and chaos damage is really quite necessary for something like this build to succeed. As well as that, we are scaling quite a lot of projectile damage and things that double dip. So projectile damage, a bit of chaos over here, and projectile pierce with drill neck means it's another 100% projectile damage, and that's all double dipping our poison. It makes it a lot nicer on the chaos and poison front at the same time. So in the end, we have 100% pierce because of the gem here and the nodes here, and that's good for your clear speed, and then as well as that for your damage. On top of that, we have the duration nodes here, which are good for your poison and pretty good for your spark too, so you're kind of double dipping in that node. And then we have some of these flask nodes here, here, and here. And being CI makes Ghost Reaver, Valpact, and your combo of flasks really quite nice and strong indeed. So that's why I went CI, even though it's a slightly lower ES pool than I would have liked. I will probably still hit 8k, because something like my chest over here, pretty lackluster, only 640 energy shield. At this stage of the game especially, that's kind of crap. I still have this ring to replace, and my helm, it's 360, I'll probably keep that though, I doubt I'm going to get any better, and I can certainly invest into much more energy shield nodes if I wanted. I've only got about 160% energy shield right now, but for me I think that's enough on this character. We'll see how it goes. Besides that, I'm using the 3 additional spark projectile helm, which takes me from 7 sparks to 10. This doesn't really feel necessary. 7 felt like it cleared just fine. 10's a bit overkill, but just smoothens out some of the clear speed. So, if you can get your hands on one of these, great. If you can't, it's not going to be a big deal. Doesn't add anything for single target anyway. I'm running a Choir of the Storm because I am crit based, and I really need the crit from this thing to fill out a lot of my crit, especially because I'm running Controlled Destruction. But then my Silver Flask here has additional resist, and my Vessel Vinctar gives lightning resist. So in total, my flasks give an absolutely shitload of crit damage for me. I have 114 lightning resist here. Pop both my flasks up to 234%. That is of course in normal though. So it's a lot of extra crit, and that's why we're running this thing. These boots I found, which are probably the most insane rare I've ever found on a character. They're almost completely perfect, and I wanted to shove them into a build, so I decided to put it here. Besides that, the gear's nothing too special, just some gloves I bought for 1 Exalt, I think, a Valerium, that's how we get stun protection, and a belt I just rolled myself. They're pretty damn easy to roll. I recommend you try and roll them yourself. Get some reduced flask charge used, or some increased duration on flasks. So I'm not going to go over too much more here. I think that just about covers it for now. I am crit based. I'm getting about 40 crit when fully buffed with power charges, and then Diamond Flask ups that to even more, though I'm not entirely sure crit is the right answer. You may be better off dropping all the crit nodes here, 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 and here, and just grabbing Elemental Overload and scaling a lot more consistently add damage. That's probably something I'll find out in the future, as well as whether or not I can take on tier 16s and all sorts of endgame bosses. Though at this stage, I'm very happy with how the Spark has progressed, played, and the character in general, and I very likely will play something like this in the future as more of a League starter. Maybe not strictly a League starter, but one of the earlier characters in a League, because it doesn't take too many strict items to get going. Nothing too special anyway. So yeah, hopefully some more stuff in the coming days for this guy. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.